possibility more closely, this might have been averted.
There were a number of individuals happened to receive training at flight schools here is news, quite obviously. If we had understood that to be the case, we would have, perhaps one could have averted this.
Now, one of the things law enforcement authorities say, and we've been seeing this in the evidence of backtracking the steps of these men, is that they were very clean-shaven, they kept to themselves, very quiet. Neighbors just constantly keep remarking that it was just very difficult to know. So that's one of the things that authorities are also wanting that kind of information to get out so that people can perhaps be on the lookout for people that might be linked to this. There's also, of course, concern that this could cause a backlash against a lot of innocent people, and nobody wants that. Judy?
All right, Eileen O'Connor, thanks very much. And, of course, we'll be coming back to you as the day goes on. Darren Kagan.
Judy, we want to get our viewers up to date this half hour with the latest headlines in America's new war, beginning with President Bush, who today declared to the nation, quote, "We are at war." He is huddled with his national security team at Camp David. He is planning retaliatory action against those behind Tuesday's terror. Today, Mr. Bush, for the first time, publicly branded Osama bin Laden as a prime suspect. The first of what will be thousands of funerals was held today in New York outside of Washington. New York's fire chief, first deputy, and chaplain are being memorialized. Also in Arlington, Virginia, service for Barbara Olson. She was the wife of U.S. Solicitor General Ted Olson, and she was on board that flight that crashed into the Pentagon. Also well remembered here at CNN as a conservative commentator. And the financial fallout from the terrorist attack is beginning. Continental Airlines today saying it's laying off 12,000 workers. The airlines have been shut down much of the week, of course, and many are operating on reduced schedules now. Just the first of, Aaron, I'm sure what we're going to see in terms of economic impact. The airline's just one of many businesses that are going to feel the brunt of this disaster.
Well, and they are big businesses. There are, in this city at least, lots of small businesses, delis, grocery stores, dry cleaners, the rest, that down in that part of Manhattan behind us that have had no business either. It's a very difficult time, and adding up the cost of this will take a long time, but it will be enormous. We mentioned a moment ago that there was a funeral here in New York for the Reverend Michael Judge, one of the fire department chaplains. Among those who were there today, New York Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton, and with Mrs. Clinton at this was another New Yorker, her husband, the former President Bill Clinton, and he talked to us briefly as he left.
I think the story of the courage of these firefighters is just beginning to be known. The dimensions of it, the numbers of their losses, and how they perished. It was an amazing thing. An act of courage and love that was just amazing. I'm honored that we could be here today and that my wife could speak, because we admired Father Mike. But he today stands for all the firefighters and the police officers and the others who lost their lives here.
A little hard to hear at points, but at one point he said the acts of heroism were amazing. The former president with his wife at the funeral of Reverend Michael Judge. One of the most important, both symbolic and practical things that need to happen now after this terrible tragedy is that Wall Street needs to get back to business. Wall Street, of course, has been closed. All the exchanges, the exchanges here in the United States have been closed since Tuesday. This weekend down on the street, they are testing the systems, the phones, the computers, everything else, in hopes they'll be able to open Monday morning at 9:30. Greg Clarkin is down in the street, literally on Wall Street, and can tell us more about that. Greg.
Hi there, Aaron. I'll tell you, after hours and hours of testing and retesting the infrastructure system at the New York Stock Exchange this morning, just moments ago, Dick Grasso, he's the chairman and CEO of the NYSE, he said our systems are all go, and come 9:30 Monday morning, trading will indeed resume at the New York Stock Exchange. So this morning what we had were technicians going over the vast telecommunications network that links NYSE member firms and other locations and processes electronic trades. So that system has proven to be up and running and intact, and they do expect to have trading begin at 9:30 Monday morning. Now, you may know the opening bell will be something special. Dick Grasso promised that in his conference call that is still underway. He said they will ring the opening bell. There will be 2 minutes of silence followed by a rendition of God Bless America, and the folks ringing the opening bell will be city, state, and national government representatives, as well as representatives from the New York Police Department, Fire Department, and Port Authority. Now, a little bit earlier this week, when trading was shut down on the New York Stock Exchange, there was a memorial bell that was rung in honor of the victims of this tragedy, and so they will resume trading again on Monday morning with the traditional opening bell and quite a ceremony. And indeed, Aaron, this was a very symbolic move by the New York Stock Exchange to make sure that trading would resume on Monday morning. They have been working around the clock with Verizon, the local phone carrier here in New York, to make sure that the telecommunications system is up and running. And again, after technicians tested and retested this morning, Dick Grasso just declaring that indeed trading will resume Monday morning at 9:30 on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. Aaron?
Greg, a couple things that just help our viewers not familiar with New York. Wall Street, the stock exchange, certainly a shot they're very familiar with. The inside of the exchange is how far from Ground Zero?
It is maybe a block and a half to 2 blocks east of Ground Zero, Aaron, and we were down there yesterday speaking with Mr. Grasso and getting a tour of the building, and he said fortunately the building has come out of this unscathed. It is a landmark historic building, more than 100 years old, but despite that, the building did not suffer any structural damage. They still want to make sure that water, electricity, the basic functions necessary for the folks coming to work down there will be intact, and although that may be spotty at times, they believe they have enough adequate facilities to take care of things. And then also, Aaron, there's the logistical problem. There's a lot of folks in that building. 3,000 alone work on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. They've worked around the clock with the city to make sure that folks have access to the financial district and to the NYSE specifically. There'll be incredibly stringent security measures to gain access, but they do believe that all things should go smoothly. And again, the NYSE itself, that landmark building, very fortunate that it did not suffer any structural damage. Grasso pointed out a lot of the improvements made over the recent decades to reinforce the building, and that was one of the reasons they believe it came out of this unscathed. Aaron?
And just one other thing. When you talk to people associated with the New York Stock Exchange, the other market as well, are they nervous about not the mechanics of the opening, not whether the phones work? I'm sure they're nervous about that. Are they nervous about what investors are going to do when that bell rings?
Sure, Aaron. There is a little apprehension as to what to expect after 4 days of non-trading. There is a kind of common belief that you may see a bit of a knee-jerk sell-off, a little bit of volatility, and also keep in mind just some of the elements of the market. There's been an incredibly weak economic picture, an incredibly weak corporate profit picture for people to deal with, not to mention the long delay in trading. But folks do believe that after the early choppiness, which may result in a sell-off early on, that things should stabilize fairly quickly. And some folks do believe this prolonged delay in resuming trading may actually have helped to calm people down a little bit, rather than if they were to have been able to resume trading earlier this week.
Yeah, I mean, people have been able to see, professional investors at least have been able to see how the world markets have responded, and there was some choppiness, is I think the word you guys used, but some choppiness, but they seem to stabilize, and perhaps that's what we'll see Monday. That's going to be some moment, though, isn't it, when that bell rings and the business of American capitalism, symbolically at least, begins again. Thanks, Greg.
Sure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it will indeed, Aaron. That opening bell, they've turned into quite a ceremony, and they do believe that this one will be a very emotional morning there as these folks get back onto that floor.
Thank you very much. Behind us, every minute or so we look in back of us and see the plume of smoke, and every day it seems a little less, but still today, as I look back there, it's still there. We're Saturday afternoon, and that site continues to smolder. And now I wonder at what point we'll all look back from our location here, and it will be clear that there won't be that smoke, that awful reminder of what took place. As we go from hospital to armory to funeral, we forget sometimes that in all of the madness that has gone on, in fact, there were moments of great joy. People who thought that they had lost someone found out otherwise. Reunions took place. Families made whole again. Some examples here from CNN's Bruce Burkhardt.
Another day in the Red Cross shelter in Gramercy Park for Rose Franklin. Another day wondering what happened to her husband, Harry.
I hear a bang.
On Tuesday morning, Election Day in New York, Rose and Harry were working as volunteers at the polling station on Chambers Street, just a few blocks away from the World Trade Center.
I go out and I see all that smoke.
While Harry stayed inside, Rose wandered outside to check out the big boom. She wandered too far. By the time she tried to return, chaos had taken over and she was swept up in the stampede.
Kept pushing everybody up north, up north, up north.
Now confused and wondering where her husband was, the 81-year-old Rose stumbled along for 2.5 miles before winding up at a shelter. It was there that she met a volunteer named Sergio, or as Rose calls him, her angel.
At the beginning, she was one more person there. Slowly you get together and you talk, which is really the only thing you can do.
At first, Rose said she had no family, but after warming up to Sergio, said she had a son in Boston. Though she didn't know his phone number or where he worked, Sergio tracked him down. It paid off. The son reported he had received 2 messages from his father. He said he was alive and well, but the message didn't say where he was.
He's not sure how to talk to an answering machine, and he's probably pretty confused.
He's always been on these heart pills because he had a triple bypass. So I've never known him to be without those pills.
Sergio tried everything, searching shelters, hospitals.
Then I went to the armory, hoping that he would be there looking for her. He wasn't.
So that was to be our story. A couple in their golden anniversary year separated by tragedy. The end. Well, not quite.
We got him.
What?
He left a message on my phone.
The husband did?
Yeah.
Sergio, who just a few minutes before this had left the shelter, came running back to tell Rose the great news. Harry had left a message.
Okay.
Harry, it turns out, had been hunkered down in the couple's apartment in an evacuated zone near the Trade Center. Without electricity, without water, Harry didn't know whether Rose was alive or dead. No one thought to look for him there.
Where's she?
Sergio and Red Cross officials then produced their version of when Harry met Rosie.
I didn't really lose it. Hey, come here.
It was Sergio's notice in the armory that did it when it happened to show up in a local TV news report. A neighbor saw it and told Harry.
I didn't know where you were, but I would never have gone home. After I met Sergio, we'd get home.
For Sergio, confirmation of his notion of what volunteering is all about.
We have to concentrate on the small things. Go to a place, and when you find somebody sitting down, sit down by their side like I did and talk to them. And you might be surprised of the information that you can get. And just one person, stick with that person, and with that information, you can make a miracle happen.
Where's Sergio?
Sergio was with me. Right here. I saw you. They left the message.
Bruce Burkhardt, CNN, New York.
My goodness. We are joined by Pamela Dixon and Jamila Persall. Persall?
Yes.
How'd I do? Pamela's son and Jamila's fiance are lost. He is lost in the rubble of Trade Center 1, Dewan. Guys, show our viewers Dewan, and Pamela, tell me about your son. Tell me who he is, what he did, what he was doing that day.
He works for mail operations. He works on the 96th floor, but when he comes in, he would go to that floor and then go downstairs to the 93rd floor, where I believe the main mail hub is. But he was early that day, so we're not exactly sure where he was in the building. I don't know if he was on the elevator or if he got the 96 and before he was going down to 93. I know he always told me he took the steps going from 96 to 93 if he didn't have anything heavy. So I'm not sure if he's on the staircase or if he's on in the elevator or just was stuck on the floor somewhere. We don't know where he is.
Do you have hope at this point?
Yes, I do. I'm not giving up.
Okay. He is